Alright, good morning. Today we are talking about dedicated teams in Path Nowhere, an introduction. But before we start talking about dedicated teams, I first want to talk about the strong supports. These are the 6 characters that if you have them, you are going to be a very happy person. These 6 slide onto most, if not all teams and do very good results. Starting with the strongest, we have Shin. Shin is an absolutely busted healer and attack buffing combo. If you have Shin, congratulations, you beat the game. Similarly, LL, you have LL, she gives energy, her ultimate gives energy to a center, and it also gives them a permanent bonus to their skill damage. Very easy, very powerful, very absurd center. And then you have Lady Pearl, who can increase attack speed and normal attack damage. Now, there are some skills out there that specify that they do normal attack damage, and Lady Pearl works with all of those centers as well. So not just auto attacks, but some characters who specifically do auto attack damage. Jelena buffs crit damage, and she does it exceptionally well, and she can also buff the attack stat of a center too. So you can even use Jelena on non-crit teams, even though I mostly recommend her only for these crit-based teams. When we get to Infer is a very powerful generic support who is known for giving a solid 40% damage bonus, but also her ECB allows her to break 2 cores very easily and is nice to have as a reserve backup or panic button when it comes to core breaking. And then last but not least, we have our very humble honorable mention A-rank Thistle. Thistle has a very cheap core break option that breaks 2 cores. I know it says 1 here, but her mania intensity changes that to 2 cores. And then her ECB is a very solid damage buff, making a 20% boost to attack for 12 seconds. And that's a really big deal, very strong compact kit for an A rank, having this ease of core breaking mixed with such a strong ECB. So those are my recommendations for support units, and you'll see them in most, if not all teams when we get to those. Now for our first dedicated team, we actually have Augustus and Singlinde. These two are actually the strongest dedicated team in the game right now. They will be joined by Seto. If you're watching this video in about 3 weeks from when it's posted, Seto will be available, and she joins this duo and makes it a trio. So Augustus and Singlinde are very unique because they do not use SP. They have a mechanic called Shattered Blade or Shattered Steel, and they consume that to use their skills. And their skills do true damage, so they can be used anywhere and everywhere. If you have these two, pair them with, again, the popular supports. We're talking Shin, we're talking LL, we're talking Lady Pearl, and whoever else you want. I like Infer, so I'm going to put Infer here. Again, just grab the generic supports, slap them on the team, and the way this team is going to work is that we're just going to go ahead and you can see the stat count here on Singlinde and the stat count here on Augustus. Singlinde's ECB gives Augustus a ton of Shattered Blades, so we're just going to bring her around for a battery for Augustus. And Augustus, since she has a battery, is just going to use her ultimate. And that's it. That's all the team does. And obviously buff up your Singlinde if you want to. And for ult here, she's already standing on Lady Pearl stage, so she has that normal attack bonus. We're going to go ahead and toggle Shin's ultimate to give her more damage. We can use LL to give her more Shattered Blade stacks. We can do all of that. And the great thing about Augustus is that she can always finish the fight with her ECB. It's a giant execution. And that easily defeats bosses or any other units that you have, as long as you've recorded enough damage in the first place. So that's our first dedicated team. Our second dedicated team is going to be Reforged Summons. Now this specifically does require you to have a Reforged 11. Okay, Reforged 11 is the cornerstone of this team. And bonus points if you have a Reforged Stargazer. Stargazers don't have to be fully reforged, just enough to get to this one. This is the big thing that Stargazer needs. Now, this team includes 11 Stargazer, Eve, and Infer, though you can drop 1, maybe 2 of these characters and still achieve amazing results. For the other members, as always, just include one of the 6 powerful supports that we showed at the beginning of the video. I'm just going to go ahead and plop in Shin and Thistle, why not? And just show how powerful this team is. Now, the idea of this team is that you give all of your buffs to 11, and then you start making 11 summons. So what happens is that all of the summons that 11 makes will inherit the buffs on 11 when 11 makes those hands. So you want to buff the crap out of 11 and then start making all of her summons. So I'm going to go very specifically give energy over here. I'm going to buff 11. I'm going to try and get that buff ready from Shin. I'm going to buff 11. I'm going to go ahead and place down my Stargazer orbs. Doesn't matter as long as they're within range of the boss. And then when I get my final buff off right here from Shin, I'm just going to go ahead and make 11's ECB. All of those hands now have all the maximum buffs. And now I'm going to buff those summons on the field with Eve's ECB. And now 11's just doing crazy damage and we can kind of sit back. If you need a burst of damage, you can always throw a 11 ult out there. Try not to erase your existing hands. If you ult on top of one of your current hands, you cannot replace that hand. And you can sort of maintain the stronger buffed hands even though you don't have buffs right now. That's a way you can sort of cheat out more summon procs with your hand still being fully available. And that's how that team works. Buff 11 and then summon some shit. Our next team is Bleed. Now Bleed is much more picky than all the others. You need all 5 of these members. 2 of them are S ranks, 2 of them are A ranks, and 1 of them is the B rank Pepper. This team is unique because every single one of these centers applies Bleed, and they all scale and do more damage based on how many bleeds are active. So the more you bleed the opponent, the stronger each and every single one of these 5 members get. Round out the team with either Shin or LL or whoever else your favorite is. Again, look at one of the 6 strong supports at the start of the video and choose them based on what you have. Now the idea of this is that you let everybody wail on one singular central target, like a boss. And then once that boss has all 5 bleeds, you can see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, there's that little blood drop symbol. It's at 3. And then we go ahead and use Jasmine ult to get that to 4. Now, or sorry, it was at 4. We use the Jasmine ult to get to 5. Now that it's at 5, we go ahead and buff with our supports. We make sure that we activate Levy ECB, or sorry, we activate Levy ult. If we have Jasmine ECB, we activate that as well. We can copy these bleeds and we can spread them to the map later, or we can just whack the boss with our ultimate. And this is a very strong team that's just very easy, very straightforward to play. You just kind of AFK and let those bleeds stack up. And then when you have Drea ult, that's where you're doing most of your damage. Most the other time, it's just very passive, very laid-back damage. Now, the cool part about this team is that if there are more things on the field, you can always use Drea to spread those bleeds to the entire map. She kind of copies bleeds, and then she uses that second cast of her ECB to spread those bleeds. So that's how you're doing most of your damage. You're spreading it to the entire map so that you don't have to stack it up on every single individual person, and then you're using Drea ult to make everything explode after you've used Levy's ult. Okay, that has to be very clear. Use Levy's ult first, use your supportive ult, then use Drea. Next up, we have ArcaneCrit. Now, this is featuring Arcanes and Crit. So we bring Yugo to increase our crit chance, we bring Jelena to increase our crit damage, and we have to have Ying Ying because Ying Ying is what allows all other Arcanes to crit. Now, because we're focusing on increasing the crit chance and crit damage of Arcane Centers, we obviously need to use an Arcane Center. Now, the most popular picks are going to be Blue, Woohoo Hanzi, or Reforged Eddie, but others will work like Victoria, and you can even force others to work like Hestia or even Reforged 11. Like, they can work, but for the most part, stick to Blue, Woohoo Hanzi, or Reforged Eddie. I'm going to show it off with Blue. And we round out the team with, again, the popular supports. For this one, I recommend LL. LL works very well on this team, just makes it a complete chef's kiss. And then I bring Shen because Shen's used everywhere. She's broken. She's the best center in the game. You shouldn't take her everywhere. And the way this works is that we're just going to buff up Blue. We're going to use Yugo ult to make Blue stronger. We're going to use Jelena ult to make Blue stronger. We're going to use LL to make Blue stronger. We're going to use Shen to make Blue stronger. and Ying Ying's on the field so that blue can crit. So all of our eggs are in the blue basket. So we go ahead and start this off by putting down our Ying Ying ultimate. It doesn't really matter where, as long as it's hitting enemies. And then because our Jelena is S1, we already have the raindrop. You see the little, it looks like a teardrop above Blue's head. If you have an S0 Jelena, you will need to ult first. S1 provides a free raindrop. Okay, so once we are ready to do our damage, again, the whole idea here is that we're going to buff up Blue. So I'm going to get Shin ult ready. I'm going to go ahead and use that. Hold on. Let's go ahead and just get ready to spam. We pop Blue, use that Yugo, buff, Blue, energy, Blue, energy, Blue. And you just give all of your resources to Blue and let her hammer whatever's facing her. If you have a second mark, you can give it to Ying Ying. Ying Ying does provide some supplemental damage, but all of your eggs are sort of in the blue basket. So don't expect anybody else to be doing too much. Because again, it's all blue. This is the blue story. Just keep giving your resources to Blue and let her pop off. All right, again, all about Blue. All about Blue. Now you can see that the power level here is starting to drop slowly as we go from team to team. We are not defeating this boss nearly as fast. I showed the stronger teams first, but Blue is still doing more than enough to go ahead and beat this stage. I'm going to wait for Jelena ult before I do my next burst cycle. And there's our Jelena ult. And now we can do Blue, buff Blue, 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 and finish the fight. And that's how ArcaneCrit works. You throw all of your resources into that one arcane, and you let her crit into oblivion. And you can see that Blue is doing most of the damage, with Ying Ying helping out a little bit. And of course, supplemental damage from all the supports. But mostly Blue. Okay, next up we have UmbraCore. And UmbraCore is complicated for a few reasons. I actually have a full video on UmbraCore. I'm going to leave that video in the description. I actually have videos on all of these teams, so search my channel if you want to see more details about one team in particular. But for UmbraCore specifically, there's a lot of information here, so I'm going to refer you to that video. But the long story short is that Parfait and Graves will make enemy cores turn blue. And if you break blue cores, your team gets stronger. Specifically, Umbras will get more stronger faster. Now, the best Umbras to use are either Zero or Reforged Bai Yi. Okay, that is not a both, that is an either. And even though Necresta Hela doesn't really receive the buffs from Parfait and Graves, since this team is focused on breaking so many Umbra cores, the Cresta Hela is a very easy addition to this team, but not mandatory. But I will say that if you are running Bai Yi is very crit based. So we kind of want to steal some ideas from the ArcaneCrit team. We want to increase her crit chance with Yugo, and we want to increase her crit damage with Jelena. This eats up a lot of slots, and it turns out that LL is Bai Yi's best partner. So it's a very strict team if you're using Bai Yi. Bai Yi is very picky because she wants all of this crit support. If you are using Zero, you have more freedom. So I'm going to go ahead and put Zero back in here. I'm going to include Necresta Hela because we're going to be breaking a ton of cores. That'll let her pop off better. And then I'm going to include LL because Zero really likes the energy income. And I'm going to bring Shen because Shen's OP. Okay, so unfortunately, this is a bad boss to show this team off because it is called UmbraCore, which means it revolves around enemy cores. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but this boss fight does not have that many cores. So I'm going to go ahead and start the battle, and I'll talk more about this team when we get there. Graves and Hela are decoration pieces. Graves makes your allies stronger when they break cores. Hela does damage when her allies break cores. Zero is the one breaking off the cores, and LL is making sure that Zero has enough energy to keep breaking cores. The whole idea here is that you're going to break a ton of cores, with Zero specifically. And then Parfait has this ultimate that gives us 20 seconds to break 12 cores. The caveat there being if we break any blue UmbraCores, those blue UmbraCores will count as 2 cores. So we actually only need to break 6 cores if we're running the proper UmbraCore team. And Zero has no problem doing that because each one of her ultimates is going to break 3 cores, and it's very easy for her to reach that 6 number. So again, this is going to look really slow because we're waiting for cores to appear, but trust me, this team is very explosive if the cores are revealed earlier. Now that the enemies have spawned, you can see blue cores down here at the bottom. That's 3. Up here, there's 2. We're missing 1 core, unfortunately, so we won't hit maximum Parfait, but trust me, this team is very explosive when these cores are shown. Let's go ahead and show it off. We're going to enter everyone's ultimate state, and then we're going to pop off. So I'm going to enter Hela ult. I'm going to use Parfait ult. I'm going to use Shin ult. I'm going to enter the Ghost Invasion state. I'm going to use LL ult, and then I'm going to spam and spam away. Now that everybody's entered their ults, it's all about breaking as many cores as possible, as fast as possible. We're going to use the Hela ECB, and we're just going to keep on spamming. Now, unfortunately, the boss did immune most of our damage there because it switched forms to red, and it is immortal during this form shift. So we lost a lot of VPS there. So I'm going to wait until my next opportunity to strike. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and strike. Team is very explosive. Kind of got trolled there by the immunity switch timing, but this team is very explosive and does a lot of damage. And you can see that even though we gave all of our resources to Zero, it ends up being Hela who does most of the damage. Okay. So use your Hela. She's pretty good. Okay, so I do want to show UmbraCore again, but this time with the Bai Yi side of things instead of the Zero side. The team comp does change a little bit here because Bai Yi again wants these crit supports. So we're not running the Cresta Hela anymore. Instead, we're running Jelena and Yugo to aid in Bai Yi's crit endeavors. But the team's going to play pretty much exactly the same. We're going to spend a lot of time just kind of waiting around for cores to appear. But when those cores do appear, the fight gets very explosive and it ends very suddenly. So we're just, again, sitting around waiting for a moment to shine, and then we're going to throw all of our resources onto Bai Yi and let her crit out of her Bazonga mind. Okay, any second now we should see those cores spawn. There they are. We're going to activate Parfait. We're going to activate Jelena. We're going to activate Yugo. And then we're going to spam and spam away with Bai Yi. Use that. Give her LL. Spam, spam, spam. Bai Yi does a burst of damage whenever she uses a movement. So we're just letting her move and teleport all over the field and just go crazy with it. Again, all of our resources are going to Bai Yi, but we're doing so much damage because the entire team is supporting her. Here's that red phase switch, so the boss is currently immortal. I'm going to go ahead and wait that out for a second. I don't want to waste all my damage while the boss is immortal. That'd be unfortunate. I don't think the boss is immortal anymore, so we can just go back to doing our crit damage thing. Oh, we're not running a healer, so Yugo is dying. But it doesn't matter because Bai Yi is back in action. And that's how the team looks with Bai Yi instead of Zero. Very similar, except instead of Zero and a Cresta Hela doing everything, it's putting all of your resources on Bai Yi and letting her do everything. Next up, we're looking at Weakspot. So Weakspot is a very Bianca focused thing. The two core members here are Bianca and Sean. So what happens is that Bianca does every time Weakspot is applied or removed. And Sean makes it so that every time a weak spot is removed, it is instead reapplied. So Sean kind of sets Bianca up to go crazy. These two are mandatory partners, and Golan's very good because she passively makes her allies stronger whenever they consume a weak spot mark. So that's kind of the basis of the team. If you're watching this video in about 3 months, there will be a new center, Margaret, who works very good on this team, but she is not yet on the English servers as of when this video is being made. Again, if you're watching this in February, there's a 4th weak spot member coming out. As for now, pair these with those generic supports from the start of the video. I'm going to use Lady Pearl and Shen because Shen's OP. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw in, let's do Enfer, sure, why not? Enfer works. And the whole idea of this team is that we are going to coordinate Sean and Bianca's ultimates. Nothing else matters. We just want to make sure that Sean uses her ultimate while Bianca is in her ultimate. That's kind of what matters here. That they use their ultimates together. They are best friends. So I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to apply all of my buffs onto Bianca. And then I'm going to go ahead and activate the weak spot with Sean there. I'm going to use all of my supportive buffs and go crazy with Bianca now that we have that Sean weak spot buff on the boss. You can see this purple little mark. That is Sean's debuff. It's no longer active, so I need to reapply Sean's debuff. I need to do it fast. And then we can move around Golan for some more damage. We can use Golan's ultimate for some more damage. But largely most of our damage is coming when Bianca has her ultimate available. So unfortunately right now, I am kind of waiting around for that Bianca ult to come back up. If I played around my energy better, and if I played around like the red switch better, maybe I don't have to worry about the fight going this long. But we just apply that mark, we buff up, and now that mark's applied, we go ahead and ult with Bianca. Boss has this purple little tag in the corner, which means it has no chance, and it's just going to fall over. Still a very explosive team, even if it's not being talked about much today, and especially come February, this team becomes overpowered again in February. Okay, now we're getting into teams that were good at one point, but have sort of been left in the dust as ages pass. This is Burn. Burn used to be incredibly overpowered, but it's struggled with power creep over the years. We're kind of waiting for new Burn centers. The core of this team is really just Thistle. Thistle makes all of her allies stronger when they apply Burn. Yao applies Burn and does incredible burst damage. Hestia applies Burn and has incredible wave clear. So pretty much bring Yao if you want to kill a boss, bring Hestia if you want to clear the waves. Yan Yan is also very good. Yan Yan has this ability. She applies burns, and she also kind of like burst boss DPSs. She kind of behaves in the same way that Yao does, if just a little bit differently. Now, there are other burn members, but unfortunately, they're not strong enough to really do anything. You're better off just running, you guessed it, the generic supports from the start of the video. I'm going to bring Shin because Shin's overpowered, and LL. Now, the idea of this is that everybody's going to go ahead and apply their burns. And then, once their burns are applied, they get stronger from Thistle, and they start doing more damage. That's the long and short of it. I'm going to wait for everybody to get their skills available to them, and then we can go ahead and start doing some big damage numberinos. This team used to be very explosive, but it has fallen on some harsh times. Also, I'm not running any crime brands right now, so you'll have to forgive me on that. So when I'm ready to do damage, I'm going to go ahead and use Thistle on our damage dealer. I'm going to go ahead and activate Shin. I'm going to go ahead and activate this burn. I'm going to activate that burn. I'm going to activate Yan Yan Ultimate. I'm going to core break with her. And then I'm going to find my least useful person. In this case, it's going to be Yan Yan. I'm going to eat her with Yao and then spam with Yao like crazy. Now it's the Yao show. Going to use Yao ult. LL is going to give her another ult. I'm going to eat Hestia. Going to use that Yao ult. Going to give energy to Yao. Going to eat somebody else. Going to use that Yao ult. I'm going to give energy to Yao. Going to use that Yao ult. And then I'm going to give energy to Yao. And I'm going to use that Yao ult. And back in the day, that used to instantly defeat anything and everything that you came across. Nowadays, it does not keep up. This team does not do enough damage. And again, this is without Crime Brand, so it's not a completely fair representation. But trust me when I say that this team is not as strong as it used to be. And they are waiting for an extra team member. But if you like Hestia, if you like Yao, if you like Thistle or Yan Yan, they are very usable, especially if you are using them more dedicated toward their individual roles, like Wave Clear for Hestia or Boss Burst damage for Yao. Another team that has fallen on harsh times, Coquelic. Coquelic used to be a very cool, like, fringe piece that could see use in all content because she deals true damage. And the whole idea here is to play around Coquelic's ECB, a River of Flowers. And this makes it so, look on River of Flowers, anybody who has a flower mark, when they deal normal attack damage, Coquelic will do a follow-up attack of her own, but only during the 10 seconds that River of Flowers lasts. So the idea is that you get people who attack really fast, and their attacks are multi-hit attacks. If we look into Priscilla's ECB, she fires 5 consecutive bullets. Each one of Matilda's attacks is actually 5 attacks. We have similar things with Priscilla. We have similar things with Lady Pearl. We have similar things with Synex. They all attack multiple times every attack. I'm going to round out this team with, you guessed it, a popular support from the start of this video. Does she have Crime Brands? Yes, she does. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and apply Coquelic marks to everybody on the field, and then we're going to activate all of their ultimates, including Coquelic's ECB. It's going to take us a while to get flowers onto the field, but in fact, I'm actually going to use dual row. I don't normally recommend dual row, but she has some interesting tech that I want to show off for this team specifically. Now, the tech here, notice how Coquelic started the fight with full energy. Okay, that's going to be important. Dual row has this ability to revive her allies. And when she revives her allies, they go back to the energy they had when they entered the stage. This lets us cheat out flowers from Coquelic. So watch, I'm going to apply 1 flower here, 1 flower here, and then I'm going to purposely defeat our own Coquelic, purposely revive our own Coquelic, and she has her ultimate back available. So I can give another flower out to Matilda. Now, I do need everybody's ults to be available. So I'm going to go ahead and arrange everybody's ultimate so that they're up at the same time. And I'm specifically going to save the flower mark on Priscilla until after Priscilla ults. Okay, that is very important for this team. So I'm going to put it in slow-mo because I'm going to activate a bunch of ults really fast. We're going to activate Priscilla, put the flower mark on her. We're going to activate Synex, the Matilda ECB, then we're going to activate the Lady Pearl ult, we're going to activate the Lady Pearl ECB, and then we're going to go ahead and slap down the River of Flowers. And that is the attack speed team. And this used to do incredible damage. Nowadays, it just kind of does damage. You can see it actually does keep up pretty well with the amount of damage that Burn was able to do. But the thing is, Burn was able to do all of that damage in AoE while core breaking. Now, it did come at the cost of Yao like literally eating all of your centers, but you can see just how much damage that Coquelic, this attack speed team, was able to do in its prime. Unfortunately, this team is no longer in its prime, and that Coquelic ECB only has 1 cast and is an entirely single target. So this team gets really slowed down by waves of mobs and when you can't defeat your enemy in 10 seconds. So this team is also waiting for some love. It's waiting for a Coquelic Reforged or something else to bring it back into the limelight. Okay, now we get to some honorable mentions. These are A ranks, but they're very, very strong A ranks. Jane is an excellent mobber. She defeats waves of enemies very easily with a very explosive bullet. She has a grenade launcher. And then Pine is also capable of breaking cores in a large AoE. And she continually breaks cores as long as her ultimate is active. Along that same vein, Labyrinth, to the B rank, is one of the best centers in the game. Because whenever she breaks a core, look at her mania intensity, after ultimate causes core break, Labyrinth gains 1 charge of her ultimate. This lets Labyrinth break an infinite number of cores as long as she breaks the last core. Labyrinth is an incredible character who should not be underestimated. Now, Shruma is also very good, but he's also very complicated. If you don't know what you're doing, look up a Shruma guide. I don't have one, but Shruma guides do exist out there. Shruma is an incredible character who can achieve some very amazing results. She's complicated, but she's very powerful. Again, Jane and Pine they're basically S ranks when it comes to mobbing, but they're not good against bosses. Labyrinth is one of the strongest utility pieces that we have in the game with her infinite core breaks, and Shruma is an absolute powerhouse if you know what you're doing. Next in the honorable mentions are the powerful support pieces. Now, at the start of the video, I showed you 6 characters that can be used on pretty much every team. I left out these 6 characters, and the reason because this top row can only be used in physical teams. Necresta, Hela, Nox, and more specifically require physical teams. Millie, Raven, and Hecate specifically require magical teams. So they are a little bit dependent on the teams that they're allowed to go on. But if you put Necresta, Hela, Nox, or more onto a physical team, they will drastically increase your results. Same thing with Millie, Raven, and Hecate. The bottom row are core breakers that buff magic damage. In this top row, they do a few different things, but moral of the story, they all increase your physical damage in one way or another. Nox just by existing, and she's also very good at wave clear, boss damage, core breaking, etc. More because she has incredible damage buffs and core breaking and defensive tactics, and Necresta Hela because she does damage whenever your allies break cores and it can quickly get out of hand very quickly. Now, there is a sort of second and third tier that I do want to bring up here as well. We have Corn. Corn is very good on physical teams because she can shred armor. Her ECB removes armor from her target, which lets all of your physical damage characters hit harder. She can then also help with wave clear and boss damage if need be. Along that same line of thinking, we have Rahu, especially if you get the Reforged Rahu coming up soon. Rahu increases the physical damage her opponents take, and she's also decent at wave clear while being an Endura. And then we also have Owo. Owo is able to increase crit chance by a lot, but it's hard to play around. The bigger thing that Owo has is that if anybody is next to Owo in a circle around her, or has Owo's ECB, then Owo is increasing their damage by a good amount. It's nothing crazy, it's kind of forgettable, honestly, but it's very easy, very passive. You don't have to think too much. You just need Owo to be on your team and give the ECB to whoever is doing damage. Next up is Cassian. Cassian has a lot of cool tricks up his sleeve, and I suggest you read his kit thoroughly to fully understand everything that he does, because he offers a lot. But the main thing is that when he uses his ultimate on an ally, that ally does more damage. So it's like a mini Infer, except he has a lot of cool tricks up his sleeve instead of core breaks up his sleeve. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention the upcoming Reforges in this video. Very soon we are going to have Reforged Adela. Reforged Adela is a crit-based hyper damage carry, and because she is crit-based, she's going to work with the typical crits characters that we saw earlier, Jelena, Yugo, etc. And she's also an Umbra unit, so she can work an UmbraCore. Adela can fit in a lot of places, and once her Reforge comes out, she's going to be very powerful and do some crazy things. Speaking of being very powerful and doing some crazy things, Reforged Zoya is coming out in February. I'm going to have a full video on like a preview of Reforged Zoya does, but know that Reforged Zoya has a brand new Potesta that she's going to make use of. That Potesta, rough translation is called over limits. Zoya has a limit break, and the limit break is a temporary version of Last Stand. Last Stand, you use it, everybody's damage increases for the rest of the stage, but they also take more damage for the rest of the stage. Over limit also increases your damage, but it only lasts for 6 seconds. It doesn't have any of the increased damage downsides. So it's very burst heavy, and Zoya thrives in that burst damage. Zoya does have some dedicated teammates. The first one, Reforged Zoya, will be crit based. So you're going to need some, crit assistance, and like Jelena and Hugo and Owo or anybody else who's giving crit chance. But then also, Reforged 99 is going to help Zoya get more over limit stacks, more limit break. And then there's going to be a new character that's released at the same time as Reforged Zoya that will also increase the amount of limit break that Zoya can get. So these three that you see on screen, and a fourth one that will release with Reforged Zoya, they will form a new dedicated team based on that idea of limit break. And speaking of future teams, we don't have it now, but Hypatia is currently the only member of the Aurum Secretum team. Technically, Lissandra does a few things for the Aurum Secretum team, but Lissandra's better as just a standalone core breaker more than she is like a supportive unit for Aurum Secretum. So we're specifically just talking about Hypatia. There are going to be new centers coming out over the next few months that combo well with Hypatia. Spoilers for a name here, Hilda and Hypatia make a very strong team. And the Aurum Secretum team is going to have this identity where it takes them a long time to ramp up their damage. But when they ramp up their damage, they hit very hard. Now, I'm going to show one thing of Hypatia's to show you what I mean here. Each time Gilded Mania casts a skill, attack increases by a certain amount, stacking 5 times. And Gilded Mania, or whatever, is the name of her ultimate. So, to get full power out of this, you need to cast your ultimate 5 times. Okay, it takes a while to cast your ultimate 5 times. And the rest of the Aurum Secretum team kind of follows that same idea, where the longer the fight goes, the more damage you deal. So Aurum Secretum is going to be a dedicated team coming up, and it's going to receive massive benefits from fights that go on for a long, long time. Okay, and the last thing that we're going to talk about, I hesitate to even bring it up, but I know some people are aware of it, so I'm gonna mention it. The Reforged Summer team. Now, the reason I'm hesitant to bring this up is because it's very singular in focus. Summer's damage is entirely single target, and this team has very little access to core break. So it's only able to be used in a certain very specific set of game modes where you need to do a lot of damage very fast, and you don't care about clearing waves, and you don't care about breaking cores. This is really mostly just like Tide of Ashes and maybe a Data Crevice. There's not too much content that this works in. You might have to sub out some members to make it work for the majority of content. But this team is very powerful because Summer summons her drones and Eve buffs summons. Summer crits, so Jelena is going to buff Summer up like no tomorrow. And then Summer is also able to double dip in Moore and Shin buffs. It's a weird interaction with Summer and her drones, but because she's able to double dip, it gets pretty crazy. Now, fill in the 6th slot with your favorite damage buffer or your favorite core breaker, okay? Because it's all about damage, but the team's lacking cores, so if you need to break a core breaker, bring a core breaker. But the idea of this team is very simple, very straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and show it off. I'm going to hide my characters in a corner for reasons. But let's go ahead and take a look at what this team does. Actually, you know what? Instead of Emperor, I'm going to bring Lady Pearl. I like Lady Pearl. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure that everybody's ultimates are all being used together at the same time. And I realize I messed up because my Jelena is not in the correct position. Let's go again. We're going to make sure everyone's ultimates can be used at the same time. And then once we're there, I'm going to get Shin ready and then we'll pop off. Okay, once we're there, we activate everybody's ultimates at the same time. We activate Summer, and Summer goes crazy. She does incredible damage. You can see the numbers just from one person. This is an incredible team composition, but again, very, 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 very singular in focus, which is why I hesitate bringing it up. It does have the damage. It does. But it is very singular in what it does. It only does single target DPS. Okay, you will struggle with waves. You will struggle with core breaking. So just know that if you're running Reforged Summer, you are very specifically running a pure single target DPS machine and nothing else. Okay. I would like to thank you guys for taking this time to watch this video. And also, if you have any questions about any of the teams that I showed in this video, I do have dedicated guides for most of these teams. So if you want to see stuff like crime brands or how they fit in an overarching tier list, or more detailed information on how to play them, check out my channel. You will find the information there as long as you know where to look. Just go to my channel, search the team name that you're looking for, whether it's Reforged Summons, whether it's UmbraCore, whether it's Bleed, you'll find the video and you'll find all the information that you need to know. I have a few big videos coming out very soon covering news that is coming to Path Nowhere in the upcoming months, as well as the new upcoming reforges that are about to hit global servers. We have a lot of exciting stuff coming out, and I'm looking forward to being able to share all of that news and goodies with all of you. So please take the time to like, take the time to subscribe, take the time to join the channel as either a Shalom lover or a Shalom hater. All support that you guys give helps out, and it's what allows me to continue making videos as much, as often, and as detailed as I do. I hope you guys like the video. I do put a lot of heart, effort, soul, research, time, effort into these videos, and I hope it shows as much as I want it to show. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.